Hi, everybody, and welcome to Be in the Know, Table Games and More. I'm your host, Benny Mancino, sometimes referred to as the B-Man. And today it's my pleasure to join a panel of gentlemen who I was fortunate enough to spend like an hour at G2E on a panel, and we discussed the greatest threats to table games. And we've had a lot of feedback about that session. A lot of people didn't get in. We had like 200, and that's where they stopped and kind of shoved everybody back out the door. So we're going to kind of reenact that session here today. Guys, welcome to Be in the Know.
Thanks
Hey,
for having me.
So for those of you who don't know who we got here, up in the top left-hand corner, at least for me, to me, is Don Snyder. Don is the director of table games. Is that right, or did your title just changed, Don, of Gun Lake?
still director of table games,
Oh,
sportsbook, and poker.
oh, sportsbook and poker. Okay, well, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Down here in the left-hand corner, to me, is well, everybody knows it. Everybody wants to be Paul Mallow. Paul Mallow, the VP of Pachanga in Southern California. Paul, how's everything going?
Amazing. All good. All good.
And none other in the right-hand corner from me on my video is Michael Chapman. And Mike, you're now the director of table games. Is that casino called Mardi Gras or is it called Tri-City?
Nope, Mardi Gras Casino,
Wasn't it called
Crossing, West
Tri-State at
Virginia.
one time? Wasn't it called
It
Tri-City?
was. It was Tri-Cities, yeah, a while
Yeah.
back.
If you wait long enough for a casino, it will change its name. I
Without a
mean,
doubt.
there's no if not if not its name, at least its its company theme or whatever. So
Yeah,
something
yeah.
something will change. So that was a good session we had out there. I mean, I think you guys will agree. A lot of information was put out, and we're going to kind of try to go over it again today. So in this session in G2E, we went for the six top, in our opinion, six top threats to table games in order from the lowest threat to the highest threat. So let's get started. Gentlemen, the first threat that we discussed was advantage play, which advantage play, a lot of people focus on that as the number one threat, but that's not the way we looked at it. And in today's world, we still have the common, things out there, counting, a little bit of pass posting, a little bit of pinching, a little bit of novelty game, advantage play. What are you guys seeing out there? Don, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I think it's something that you always got to keep an eye on. But what I think is really the young and upcoming advantage players are all playing slots. We still have card counters, and you still have to look out for them, but they're all going to those persistent slot games because the money's too easy, and these casinos are full of them, and you literally can pull down six figures very easy on top of all the rewards that you're getting. Um, so card counting, it's a grind. You got to sit there for hours upon hours and try to, camouflage your play. So I think, whole carding would be, more of something that you need to look out for. But I think the up and coming newcomers are all going towards the slot section.
Paul, what are you seeing out there in California?
We're still seeing a lot of card counting because I have some of the best double decks in the nation. We got, all the rules are great for the player, and it's a great game. It's only we offer it because we're in a highly competitive market, and we also want to cut out any traffic that might want to go to Las Vegas. So, and those games just don't exist in Las Vegas. But it's crazy. We probably kick out a card counter every other day. So probably because I was just talking to my shift manager about it, and the last four we kicked out actually lost. So it's tough. I mean, you got to grind it out. And I laugh. I laugh when these guys, they're working away, grinding, and they're losing 2,000, and then we say, "Hey, you got to go." But we're seeing that, and of course, the normal stuff. I mean, we don't have whole card play anymore because we took advantage of the shuffler, where it deals the first set of cards with a red card underneath, and we give that to the dealer, so it's protected. But yeah, our biggest thing is probably card counting, and it's not really that much of a threat to us. mean, it's just something we have to deal with.
Well, when you think of the professional level card counter, professional level has a 1% advantage over the house, and that's why they don't care if they lose, because if they continue to play just like we continue to play, we're going to end up on the right side of that. But it's hard anymore to get the hours in like you could, and that, like you guys said, it's definitely a grind and something that they're finding other ways, other methods. Mike, what are you seeing out there on the East Coast?
We get our card counters that travel through. We get our alerts from the surveillance networks, but really it's the whole carding and really the persistent slots, like Don and Paul said. We don't have the double deck games that Paul offers. We are all 3-2 though, so that's a good thing. But really, it's the persistence games and slots are the big areas that's growing right now, and then your whole carding, and as Paul said, as you take advantage of the technology, that's eliminating that quite a bit as well.
So recently, we've seen some pretty big attacks on baccarat. Now, these things are usually short-lived. I mean, at a major level. I mean, they come through like a one of these wildfires you guys have out in California, right? They hit, they last a period of time, and sooner or later, they're going to burn out. Some of these camera teams, they were getting dealers who decided to cut without cutting with the right hand, and they fanned the cut card across the top, and they record a sequence of cards, which goes to somebody who comes back and gives them, hey, this is when you hit this card, you're going to have 20 hands of this, and it's pretty hard to lose when every player banker for the next 20, 30 hands. Now that was a significant issue. I haven't heard much rattling about that baccarat incident, and maybe you guys have in the last 2 to 3 months. I think it's pretty well that teams that were right now they've died out. Doesn't mean somebody else saying, oh, you see some of these scams re-evolve after a certain period of time, right? They reignite. Another thing I've seen is psychological advantage play, where these people talk the dealer, the floor person, or somebody into a play or a payoff that really never should have happened. And we mainly seen this on roulette over the last year and a half. Teams with like the Sean Benard, where he comes in, he makes friends with everybody, bets for the dealer. Now he makes a false bet. He has another person with outside his demographic, also claim, hey, yeah, I heard him say that, and they get paid off. They get paid off 8 out of 9 times, And there's other, we've seen not in table games, but we've seen social engineering in the cage, where they've called people up and made them believe that they were this or that, and I think them are the most significant threats, right? And I don't know exactly how you protect yourself from something like that, other than just be alert. If something seems odd, I remember the first person that taught me to protect table games. He says, if you see something happen, a distraction in one area, look directly behind you, because that's where the scam's going on, right? So kind of in the words of Michael Joseph, the tip off to the rip off. Anything else on advantage play, guys, that you're seeing? Okay, well, let's move on to our next threat. And that's competition from other forms of entertainment. Maybe that's online gaming. Mike, Don, what do you see out there?
Well, as I said at the show, I'm kind of the sky's falling guy in this respect. I think if we don't partner with a solid online partner and get continuity of experience between the online and the brick and mortar, then I think brick and mortar does have some dangerous roads down the path. But I know Don feels a little bit different than that. Some of the most recent months, you've seen some reduction in the Strip and some other markets, and I think certainly it's not the end of gaming as we know it, but I think we need to look for solid partners and really get that continuity of experience.
Yeah, I think that, I'm working a state that, we just did over 200 million in online gaming revenue last month. Like Mike just said, the synergy that you have to create with your online platform and your brick and mortar to, get that guest experience out there. You're never going to replace the guest experience, whether, the dealers sending them through guest service training and using the 10-5 and using their names and all those kind of things. You're just not going to replace that with the online gaming. So I think if you provide that experience, and that goes with the other amenities that you have at your brick and mortar casino, you got to utilize that. Your marketing team has to get out there, and whether that's the steakhouse or the pools or the nightclubs or different aspects of that, those are things that you're never going to get online. So I think that it is a threat. I just think that good operators are going to be able to overcome this down the road. And that's where I see it going.
Well, I know Paul don't see this in California because he's got dealers that go for their own, but I travel a lot and I just don't see that, 60, 70, 80s, 90 version of customer service out there. And my fear, a lot of the fears I have are, okay, so you're a young person of this era and you've never experienced a real table games customer service dealer, right? You've never experienced, so you don't know what it's like anyway. So then you get to make your entry into the online gaming space at levels that we just can't provide in a brick and mortar casino. I can't have a 10-cent real 3-2 blackjack game. It's just not going to happen. I can't provide a $5 3-2 blackjack game and pay the labor. It's just, so the entry points are a little higher. Maybe you can get an imaginative. I've gotten imaginative and putting a mandatory $5 side bet. And I know, Mike, I know you've gotten imaginary with a, don't you have a $1 like a VIG to play a blackjack game? And, these are things we got to think about to find a way to get these young players an opportunity to hit the brick and mortars.
Yeah, we've got a $5 game with a 25-cent ante. Popularity is going through the roof, of course, because you still get 17 shots for your 100, and it plays like a $15 game. So
Wow.
it really is a good opportunity to bring in some entry level play and get the people that one-on-one experience, or 6-on-1 in this case experience in blackjack, with a dealer. And they've been doing fairly well toke wise as well, which is awesome because that's really what you're going to get that experience from the dealer from. If they're not making tokes, they're just not going to care.
Yeah, I know. I had a lot of pushback when I reignited the 6 to 5s that we have the opportunity to provide here, a real lower entry point from the staff. But now we're seeing the rewards of people who were coming and getting pushed out on a Friday night. I would hear them as I come in. They would say, "Oh well, they're going to jack the limits up to 25 pretty soon, and there'll be no games for us." But now they can come in, and I can keep that revenue stream at the same level. But now we're building off that. There's people who automatically walk in that door 8 o'clock at night on a Friday, Saturday night, knowing that they're going to be able to play again, and they're very, very excited about it. And the critical mass of that, people are starting to get the word out, and that's good. And that, like I said, I'm very fearful of the online space, but I do know there's hope if operators like us will put out the effort to put the training in. Don, you said something very interesting that about businesses that recreated themselves. You think about the table games industry. If it wasn't for my previous casino, Las Vegas, Hard Rock Las Vegas, and the colored layouts and the kind of the interaction with the guests and stuff we promoted, of high-fiving and all that, I don't know where we would be today. I think we'd be a bland, every table would still be green and everything. We just haven't done a whole lot of proactive reinventing of the table game space. Slot machines, it's constant. it's constant. They're redoing the floor. There's a new theme, and half of that, the slot director don't even have to do. Somebody's out there doing the R&D and creating the stuff. He's just got to select which one of them are going to be the best fit for his property. But we don't have that opportunity. We have a static product for the most part. There's been a couple introductions of games, and they've taken off a little bit, but for the most part, you got craps, blackjack, roulette, baccarat. That's the mainstay, and we haven't done a good job reinventing ourselves. But Don, to your point about the theaters, right? The theaters have done a great job, right?
Yeah, different theaters, they with the online streaming business, kind of taking over with your Netflix and all that. There's some theaters, groups out there that even by my house where they're serving alcohol. You're sitting in a reclined chair that's massaging you, or you got some heater on it. It changed the experience of going to the movie, and they're bringing back some of the old classics that they're showing, like Rocky here and there, and things along those lines. They're reinventing themselves because the ones that haven't reinvented themselves are going out of business. You can Google that and see that, lots of them are going out of business, but other ones are thriving. And I think that goes back to we have to create the experience in the brick and mortar. We're at competition for all entertainment dollars, right? But if you think about it, if you're going to go to Top Golf, or you're going to go to the movie theaters, or different things that you do for entertainment, we're the only place that you can walk out with money. You can go in and spend $100 at Top Golf, and there goes your 100. You're getting an experience, but when you come to a
play
casino,
like me, you haven't improved at all either.
right, right. Then you get more frustrated. But yeah, we have that opportunity where we can create an experience, and if we can sell the fact that you still have that chance to walk out with money by offering competitive games and different things like that, then you're creating that experience so that the guest wants to come back. So I think it's very important that we're able to do that as brick and mortar properties.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about by going spend. Like, I like to shoot. You go to the gun range, you pay for the range, then you pay for the ammunition. You got nothing left, but you've blown $150. There's no chance. It's crazy when you think, like you said, the movie theaters, they were done, right? The online streaming was going to end them, and some of them have really been creative and created a whole new entertainment venue at the theaters. And I'm seeing it more and more in the sports teams, right? Somebody could stay home at their couch and have a good time, and now they can bet online. But guess what? They can't go to the Knights game and feel that experience and feel that excitement and see the Knights stick the short into the rock and all this stuff. And now I was watching a football game the other day, and oh my God, here's the Las Vegas Knights experience in between. They kind of forgot to cut away for the commercial, and now I got to see some of what was going on in between. The commercial times, and it's crazy. They're starting to know it. They've got to reinvent themselves if they want people to come to the stadium on a consistent basis. I mean, you look at the A's. I mean, what's the size of their stadium? I think it's only like 44,000 that they're planning to build in Las Vegas. So they understand there's been some shrinkage, right? There's been some shrinkage of that market. People will stay home and watch it. But if you do things like the Knights, you can't buy a Knights ticket. I mean, you can't afford to buy it. Look at the Raiders and there's more Cleveland. The other day when the Browns were in Las Vegas, there was more Browns fans in that stadium than there was, because they're coming for the overall experience. Same thing with the Steelers and Kansas City. Everybody was traveling there. So now these new sports tourism is taking off. It's a new business, right? And you just got to reinvent. And I think if table games doesn't do that, like you said, Mike, if they don't synergize with the online, if they do have an online outlet, then it's going to be a tough go. Okay, I guess enough of that one. Let's go on to number 4. And number 4 was the proliferation of gaming across the U.S. Oh my God, have we seen that or what? I mean, I remember when I started, there was 2 places. There was Las Vegas and there was Atlantic City. And that's it. There were probably a total of 100. And you could, you almost could name them all by name. in the whole U.S. Now there's, I guess there's 2,000 casinos, 450 some North America that have actual table games. So it's crazy. What problems do you guys see with the proliferation of gaming?
I'll start that one. Just recently coming from Northern California, very highly competitive market up there. I mean, there was probably a casino within 10 miles of each other. I mean, it was so crazy to get that piece of the pie of the revenue. And that's definitely proliferation. I'm surprised we opened a Hard Rock up there because we had to steal play from somewhere else, or, we had to offer better games, better odds, everything just to get that player, and also the marketing efforts that we did. So that area is just completely, oversaturated is probably the word, but yeah, I've seen it firsthand. It's tough to work in that environment.
And the challenge for staff is tough, right? I mean, like I said, you got you and Mr. Schneider have some of the world's best labor issues that happen. But most of us out here in the Midwest and towards the East, we can't buy a dealer. We absolutely can't buy. The other day, I counted the ads for floor supervisors, and there was 122 casino ads for floor supervisors. Labor's a definite problem.
Agreed.
I need 8, Benny. So if that tells you anything, and I'm not a big property. Yeah, it's the proliferation really has watered down the market a lot. There's a lot of people in positions that just, well, I'll be that guy and I'll say it. They fog the mirror, so we put them in a suit, right? We need to get on track and really get, again, I'm going to hammer it. We've got to get the experience right, and you can't get the experience right without the staff right.
Agreed.
Yeah, well, you got a lot of with that much saturation industry, yeah, the knowledge base has shrunk considerably, right? Like you said, if they can breathe, you're giving them a shot. And when we have a weak knowledge base, you don't have mentors. You don't have people who can develop the next generation of floor supervisors and the next Paul Malls, the next Don Snyder's. They're just it's really a scary situation. Now, when you spread out these casinos, you make a lot of casinos, instead of having these giant operations where you have all these table games, you have maybe a smaller table game spread, and then the toke rates shoot up. And then now the dealers are making more than your floor supervisors. The supervisors, the floor dealers don't want to move up to floor supervisors like they did. And we've lost a great deal of pride in what you do. Would you guys agree?
Agreed. Yeah.
100%.
I think, you can even look higher than that. A lot of people in our positions, directors and even VPs, they didn't come up through the ranks. They're kind of placed in these positions. And so now there is no more mentoring because they just don't know. So how do they teach the people, their shift managers or pit managers and so on and so forth? You run into that. Well, if they don't understand the math, they don't understand the numbers, they don't understand gaming psychology because they haven't been on the floor that often. I think that's a big problem too, because then you lose that mentorship and then the staff, when they're looking up, like, they I don't want to say they lose respect for them, but they don't respect them as much as somebody that they're like, I know that person did this before, so I know that they're aware of it. I know they've made these same mistakes and they've done all these things that I'm going through right now. I think that's a big issue too.
Well, we've talked about this several times, is that too, little by little by little, some of the things that were just a normal everyday experience, like training, like a blackjack refresher or something like that, that's just slowly been put on the wayside that people don't remember we did this. I mean, oh my God, I remember working for the Flamingo at Caesars, in the middle 90s. And I mean, man, I spent time in some sort of training every week. I can't, it seemed like I was doing it every week. And now that's like went by the wayside, and I think a lot of that's due to, lack of executive participation in tables. They just look at the numbers and they don't come out on the floor, and it's listen, everything makes table games a target, right? So, it's labor intensive, it's very noisy. I mean, very, very noisy. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest laughs we got when we talked about the table games noise out there. But it's true, we have the attendance issues, we have union issues, we have all sorts of things that create a bunch of noise, and it just makes us an easy target if something goes wrong. Well, let's shrink the table games operations a little bit, right? So the proliferation has really had its effect. Anything else you guys want to add about the proliferation of gaming? We just need to be very aware that, it's something that's out there, and we probably, it's an individual effort to make it better. So let's go to number 3, and that's the lack of innovation. I mean, I just talked about that in the last section, but we have become kind of stagnant. It's where do we go from here, guys? What do you think?
I'll start this one anyway. It's nice to be away from G2E and having attended G2E because, in my opinion, Light and Wonder threw something out there, and right now it's just an experiment. Really, it's not a full system, but their smart table. Really, I think is probably the only innovation we've seen in table games. What I said on LinkedIn was the only innovation in table games since the Flamingo. But I think really it's going to be the video rec, the RFID chips, and AI coming together to really assist humans in getting the experience. And here we are back to the experience, but getting that experience. And that's really where the innovation is going to have to come. There's definitely some great games out there. No doubt people are coming up with some good ones. But I really think it's going to be the integration of all this technology into making that supervisory role as much a host position as it is a game protection position.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think there's going to be AI is going to take over at some point. Now, I put on there the other day a post, and I do stuff for shock value on LinkedIn, and people seem to eat it up. This is AI going to replace? No, it's not going to replace the supervisor, but it could make, like you said, his job a lot more pleasurable and more. And maybe we can target market people by the information we're getting. Maybe we can eliminate a lot of the things we sweat as far as protection with that, and maybe we can have a good time again. I don't know. It's going to happen. There's some really smart companies out there. I've worked with a few. Light and Wonders. Making a second run at this. There's some companies that have been making runs at this for 10 years, but I think the first idea was just to get bet recognition. Let's get bet recognition now. Let's find out how much they're betting, and that's going to solve all the world's problems. But in my opinion, it's not going to solve all the world's problems. It's going to cause some problems, because what do you do now that you know that half your segment is being under reinvested and the other half is over reinvested? You're not going to cut the over reinvested just down to nothing immediately, and you're not going to get your CFO to come up with $3 or $4 million of reinvestment for the other ones. So it's a tricky thing. But I think some of the other things that people are starting to look at now, and we've seen that with Light and Wonder, and like I said, there's a few other people out there in the space that I know of. They're going to start attacking, the things, the performance, the productivity. We got a problem now where you'll hire a dealer, and you go about 2 months later after having him out there. Now you've taught him the blackjack and all the carnival games, and he goes to walk over to Ultimate X and Hold'em, and he says, "Oh my God, wait a minute. I haven't dealt that game. I only dealt it one time, and it was 3 months ago." Well, now if you had some sort of AI that could keep up on Johnny and let you know Johnny's got 10 hours on Ultimate Texas or whatever, you could get these people a lot more productive than what they are today. And then if the same thing with if it was able to catch mistakes and stuff like that, you would be able to say, start working on people and making them more productive to where they enjoy their job more and the guests enjoy the experience more because they're not sitting there, with a dealer that makes a mistake every 3 rounds, right? So it's the lack of innovation. We think about it. What was the big? I would say visual limits. Maybe it was the last big
Yep.
step.
Yep.
And then if we go back and we think about the multi-deck shufflers, they're 15, almost 20 years old. And it really hasn't now. Ideal Plus came up as it's got a nice little screen, but it's basically the same Ideal shuffler in the long run. It's got a few more bells and whistles. It can do that thing like what Paul said about putting the cut cards underneath and all that, but about the same thing. But I think we're there. It's coming, finally coming to where somebody recognized. Now we go back to the last threat, right? Will the executive management, be interested in that? That's what we got to.
Well, all that stuff's going to cost money, so that's where especially early on, down the road, maybe after it's released, a decade later, it'll get cheaper, but it's definitely going to be an investment.
And I don't know about you guys. You can tell me your experiences, but I've been with for some odd reason. Listen, everybody out there, I'm not a job jumper. All right, I spent 12 and a half years at the Hard Rock Las Vegas, 5 years with Derek Stevens, and 5 or 6 years or so. I'm not a job, but for some odd reason, I've had like 4 jobs in the last few years, and I've been able to experience a lot of different gaming companies in a short period of time. And I didn't find one who segregated a lot of capital for table games. So, and if you come up with something in the middle of the year, said, well, we'll look at that next year. And the same things happen. So that's what kind of worries me about this technology. But I don't know, maybe, I know, Paul, I know you guys are fat out there and you get all sorts of money, but the rest of us aren't like that. Okay. All right, buddy.
I do. Oil.
He's sitting there going, what are you talking about? I get money anytime I want. I just write a check. They cash it.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, the 3 letters I don't want to hear is, well, what's the ROI? It's just, that will just eat up into innovation. You're not going to innovate. You're worried about your return on investment. You got to take a chance every now and then. I agree with Mike too with respect to innovation is probably this hybrid gaming is the new frontier where it kind of appeals to that slot player where you have digital cards, digital money, or maybe you have real cards and digital money. There's all types of choices, and I think Light and Wonder really did a great job this year, and they showcased that game in the back room, and that was, to me, I was like, wow, this is the first time I've gone to a G2E in a long time where something has actually impressed me. So,
Well,
they had a good blend of options there.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things, to get to what you were talking about, Benny, I think one of the things that I said at the show, somebody came up afterwards and thanked me for saying it, is that the financial side, like you say, you open up a property and the money flows, right? No big deal. But 10 years down the road, after you've purchased these shufflers and they're at end of life, and you go and say, hey, I need, $3.5 million to redo my shufflers in the property. The CFOs are like, no way, you ain't getting it. And, my statement was, listen, if you're putting in shufflers, you need to start. If you're going to put in shufflers, every 2 years, you should start looking at doing about 20% of those shufflers. I mean, you've got to look at their life. You've got to look at, how you're going to depreciate them through their life cycle and replace them. And really, you got to start doing it up front, not at the back end, 10 years down the road saying, hey, I need $3 million.
What I think, and I wanted to pass to you guys, they took a shot at Tito on the tables a few years ago, and it kind of failed. It didn't pan out. But now what I'm seeing, and I've seen this in the last 4 joints, like a critical shortage of staff at the cage. And you get these massive lines on a Friday and a Saturday night. It's just such a poor customer experience to spend your time when you want to go, hey, you made a little score, you want to go up the bar and talk with your lady and have a drink, but no, you're spending 45 minutes waiting to cash out. I think the Tito thing will make a resurgence on the table at some point in time because it's much easier to take over and throw that thing in a machine at a certain level than it is. So we may see we may see a lot of innovation, I think, in the near future, but lack of innovation has been a major threat. So let's talk about guest experience and marketing practices. Boy, I tell you what, we could probably go on this one here for a while. But Paul, what do you think?
God, I mean, the first name that comes to mind is in yesteryear was Don Johnson in Atlantic City, where he took 3 casinos for $15 million because of marketing. The player development team took over and dictated, what we would offer this guy. And I mean, we were giving him 20% cash back on losses above 500,000, and that would reset every day. We also were giving him 50,000 in walk-in money. I mean, it was crazy. I held back the wall when I was at Borgata. Then after I left for Hard Rock, they let him in, and he beat Borgata for $5 million. But it's just runaway marketing, and they don't really understand, table games, and it's scary. That's an old one, but it shows.
Well, they're all very proactive at wanting to throw offers at these players, but I think the players really value relationship marketing more than all this money and stuff that they throw at them. And I don't see that. I don't see the hosts coming out and having a good time with their guests or anything like I had seen in the past. Are you guys seeing kind of a back off of that, and where like guys, I say, hey, you got your guest is out there, he's in 10,000. Well, where's he at? Really?
Yeah. It's there. Go ahead.
Well, I'd say it's like concierge service. They're in their offices and they're not building those rapports. And like Paul said, the offers are just going out. Just give more free play, give more free play. I think there needs to be a lot of communication between table games executives or even managers and the marketing team as far as who the player is and what type of player are they. If you have somebody that's strictly straight basic strategy, no side bets, no anything, then you have to understand that and know that player. Whereas, you have somebody in here that's firing away max bets on all the side bets and only $50 on the main hand. Well, that needs to be communicated to the host. So the hosts need to be on the floor talking to these people, but also talking with the managers and, whether the directors or the VPs and saying, hey, we're rating them at, whatever, 1.25%, theoretical, but he's probably playing more like 6% theoretical and understanding the difference between those players. And that way if you do need to give better offers to get those people back in the door, especially in a competitive market, you have to have that communication, across departments, I think is vital.
Yeah. Another flip side of that same issue is, I call it the entitlement issue. And that's, we give these players so much. We're giving them 2 gifts a week. We're giving them all types of free play. And if you try to trim that down or stop it, they're going to be, I'm going to another casino. So we're not building the loyalty that we want. We're just buying loyalty. And when you get into the entitlement thing, it's a tough thing to get out of. How are you going to get that? You're giving a guy 200 a week, let's say, and you trim that down to 150, and the guy's all upset. So,
well,
yeah.
That goes back to our conversation about bet recognition, right? I think and then we're not here to bash marketing teams. I mean, it's not, but we're just talking about what we're seeing out there. And the same thing when we talked about the proliferation gaming, let me tell you, marketing did the same thing, right? They had to find all these new marketing people. I don't know if they were mentored. You go and you look at somebody like Nick, who's out there teaching marketing. He's teaching that old style relationship type marketing. One point, go back to what we were talking about innovation. At some point, like we told, bet recognition, you're not going to be able to cut everybody off, like you said, Paul, and we're not going to be able to give everybody the under-invested the money. But if we get an AI that's really zoned in, where you said, Don, the guy might be playing at a 4.5% disadvantage. We can now target market where we never been able to before, right?
Mm.
A human input is just it's just a shot in the dark. You might as well flip a coin and say, hey, this guy was betting 300 a hand or 150 a hand. Yeah, I don't
Guesstimate.
know. I don't know, but another thing that I keep constantly hearing, poor drink service and poor
Right.
overall customer service.
Yeah.
What do you think, guys? How do we remedy that?
That goes back to a lot on the staffing thing. I think we're kind of stuck with the whole fogging the mirror comment, in all our departments. And I think a lot of the thing, to get to marketing a bit as well, it's the silo effect that we've had for a lot of years. Marketing, they get the people in the door and they don't care. My job's done. You guys deal with the whole. My job's done. I got them in the door. And I think, like Don said, we've got to partner with them, and we've got to say, great, you got them in the door, but 8 out of the 10 people you got in the door are 1%ers for me. We need more 5 and 6%ers.
Well, customer service, Trey, I went to 3 places. I asked them how long it's been since we've never had it. So that used to be a yearly thing, like when I was with Caesars way back in the day, and there's just not that concern about that, and you can't have that kind of relationship because listen, you got to have internal marketing, right? When I talk about internal marketing, your dealers, your floor people, you have to know where the venues are, what they are, and when somebody asks you a question, you don't have to know the answer to every question, but you sure in the hell needs to know where to get it, and that just isn't happening. It's like, I don't know. Let me see if I can find out. And the guest waits, and nobody ever comes back and gets back to them. So it's a problem.
Not just the venues, Benny, but the players. I remember, when we opened up Bellagio, we'd walk in. There was a list from the hotel. Here are all your players. They're at this level and above. They're checked into the hotel. I haven't seen that. I don't know since I left Bellagio.
This is what he drinks. This is what. Yeah. Arrivals list. That's what it was called. Arrivals list.
The other thing is again working with other departments. Working with your food and beverage team or even your beverage team and talking to the beverage manager. For the most part, at least in my experience in properties, servers make way more in tables than they'll make in the slot sections, right? So they want to be there, but communicating with them to say, all right, this is how we're going to set it up for the weekend. These are the pits that we're going to open. We need somebody for this pit. On Thursdays, we may only get into 4 pits, but on Fridays, we're going to get into 6 pits by 7 p.m. and having that communication. If you have visual limits, you can order drinks right from the limit sign. There's a lot of different things that you can kind of set up from technology where it'll send you want 2 Heinekens, it'll send it right to the waitress and she can just run out there and get it. And those are things that you have to start looking at.
Anything else on guest experience and marketing, guys? All right, everybody, big drum roll. Everybody's been waiting for this one. The number 1 threat to table games. You guys think you know what it is out there? Okay, you ready? Threats from ourselves from self-inflicted wounds and silent killers of revenue. Paul loves that self-inflicted and silent killers. Paul, tell us how we step on our own feet.
I'll tell you. I won't mention the casino, but I recently took over a casino. Okay, maybe it was in we just wasted time on the tables. We were doing 2.5-minute shuffles. To pay somebody a jackpot took probably 40 minutes on a game. We did just stupid stuff. I mean, you had to wait for approval to change $100, to change $100. You had to wait for approval to do a shuffle. It's just so much wasted time. And if you add that all up after a year, I mean, that's a ton of revenue that you're leaving on the table, literally. It's just the silent killers of revenue. You're the one that actually invented that. And I kind of I took it as my own. I love it. And I actually train for that now. It's
Well,
crazy.
if you take one round of play out of a table game section of 12 games, it's right here. If you look at Bill Zender's Casinoology 2, I think it's in there. It's like $128,000 for one round for a 12-game pit. But wait a minute, that's one round. What are we talking about? 5, 6, 7? We're talking millions and millions of dollars here over the course of time. And a lot of that stuff comes from things that we just sit there and tolerate. I think about one of the worst design things I've ever seen in my life, and I didn't mention this during the session because we didn't have enough time, is the progressive pad in the middle of the rack. You ever seen them? Because it takes up 4 rows. So if you take up 4 rows, you're going to lose 4 rows of chips. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to be making more fills, right? And when a fill happens, what happens? The game stops. You don't have no rounds. And there again, things like deep cuts. We deep cut because we're afraid of somebody who's going to count us down, right? And we cut off 8, 10 rounds of a shoe, right?
I worked at a casino. This is a crazy one. If it was a payout, like a side wager payout over $1,000, you had to stop the game and call surveillance to verify it. I'm like, oh my God. And it took surveillance, a good 5 or 10 minutes to rewind and figure out where this was and if it was valid. And they're not experts in gaming, so it takes a little bit of time for them as well. And can you imagine the wasted time on that? 1,000 and above, you had to call surveillance and stop the game. It's just craziness. I mean, it's nuts.
My favorite was, and this is, I'll keep the name of the casino and the side bet out of this, but I went and took this place over, and for a while, you couldn't get licensed until the committee, there's the whatever, so it took time. So all I did was go around, push chairs in for quite some time. So I'm watching the game comes to a complete halt, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Let me go over and see what's going on. And they had this side bet where if you won the side bet, now you can decide to take half your side bet winnings and cap your blackjack bet and go on with it, right? So now the guy has won his side bet and he's looking at the guy next to him like, hey, what would you do? And the guy said, well, I never play side bets, so I wouldn't be a good person to tell him. And he looks at the guy over here, and the guy said, well, I play all the time. I always do it, And then he asked the dealer, he says, well, what would you do? And the dealer said, I can't tell you how to play your money. Now there's a floor person 3 games up from this table, putting a fill on the game. And he said, Phil, I guess the guy's name was Phil too. And he's like, hey, just a minute, I'll be right there. So this floor person comes all the way back down to this game, and he said, Phil, what should I do? Should I tap it? And he says, man, you got to do what you want to do. 2 minutes and 30 some seconds later, this guy bets it all on his blackjack bet. And I couldn't believe there was that's a lesson out there, folks. If you get a side bet, it has a decision, tell them to get rid of it. You don't want to get rid. But that's just the kind of things that we do to shoot ourselves in the foot. And
Yep.
Then if we go back and you guys can talk about it. Training, we don't do enough training. We don't get these people prepared.
Yeah. I'm going to go back real quick on that. I know I keep talking about this every chance I get, but if you think about the amount of lost hands to buy-ins in a high limit room, if you're a property that isn't based on credit, all the buy-ins, the 5,000s, the 2,500, you got to count it out, five rows, put it over here, put the paddle on. If you have a cage in your high limit, I highly encourage you to have a regulation that you can have players buy in at the cage and bring the chips over. If you just picture it right now, somebody coming in to buy in for 5,000, you got 6 players on a baccarat table. I think you're going to lose 2-3 rounds at 6 times however much the average bet is. Think about that over the course of the year. You're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars are wasted. So if you can do that, I would highly encourage that.
Yeah, I actually do that at Pechunga. We have players. They're almost trained. They go to the cage with $50,000, $100,000 in cash. A lot of people carry cash in California, And yeah, they get chips, and it's just so much faster for us. We don't have to stop the game, like you said. That's a good one. It's a real good one.
Virginia almost went totally cashless. I was hoping they would, so we could see this great experiment where you had to buy a ticket to go or something to get your chips. You could not get your chips at, you couldn't use cash at the games. It didn't end up happening, but another thing it drives me nuts, and I get rid of it anywhere I can, is these counterfeit pens that are absolutely useless.
Yep.
I watched my first day at Philly, a guy buys in 35,000 and we're swiping all these bills, with this counterfeit pen, which I know is probably only 30%, 40% accurate at best, right?
Yeah, I think you're giving it a lot of credit there at 40%.
Right. Well, I'm trying to be gentle to the people who are still using it. But listen, if you got a counterfeit pen, you can get rid of it in your jurisdiction, get rid of it because it's a waste of time. I mean, I remember Rivers Philly. Like I said, I'm doing this, swiping these bills, and so it was a May like 10th or something. I called the cage and said, "Hey, can you tell me exactly how much soft count is taken in counterfeit bills this year?" And it was $120. And you mean we're wiping these bills for $120? I mean, it's costing us way more than what's happening. But if you sit back and look at it, that's what we're trying to get at here, folks. If you sit back here and look about the things that we do to ourselves, we do way more damage than any advantage player or anything else. It's just we just create a lot of our own problems.
Well, look at our carnival games. We change our cards in our carnival games every 2 or 4 hours. And how many people do it, have looked at it and do it intelligently, right? Instead, what do? We take both decks off the game. We open a deck at the game and check them and put them on, and open the second deck and check them and put them on. The shufflers will sort them. So you deal the hand out, put the shuffler in sort mode, sort the last deck while you're checking the new one. Sort the deck that you just used while you're checking the second one, while the dealer's checking the first one, put it down. You're done. It takes no time at all when you're changing these decks out. But I watch it all the time. I watch it in my place. It drives me nuts. Both decks come off the table. Then both decks go on the table. It takes 5 minutes to change decks in a carnival game. You cost yourself more than you're ever going to lose.
Wow.
And inopportune times, right? So you'll see these cards get changed at 8:30 or 9 o'clock on a Saturday night when it's the absolute busiest, instead of changing them at 7:30 and then leaving them on until 11:30 at night or something like that. That nobody, just there's the attention to detail just is not there, and it just totally shoots us in the foot.
Yeah. One quick one I got to mention. I worked at a casino where it was we had Easy Bach, and there was the Panda, the Dragon, the Tie, all the wagers, all the side wagers. Well, they must have gotten past post at like 10 years ago for like $5,000 or something. And somebody got over on them. So what they did was they took all these little lammers that said Panda, Dragon, Tie, and they would put them on top of the bets after the players made the bets. And so they would the dealer would have to pull these out of the rack, put them all on top so that nobody could pass post. And then the dealer would deal the game, and then you'd have to remove all those lammers and put them back in the rack. And I did it just some quick down and dirty math on that. We were losing close to $400,000 a year just by doing that process. And I told the gaming commission, I said, please, someone pass post me for $5,000. It's better for that. I mean, than spend $400,000 in lost revenue. Just craziness things that we do to ourselves. Well, and there's that attitude out there. Well, this is the way we've always done it. And that's got to stop. That's
you could.
Well, I was going to say that myself. Those words are like nails on a chalkboard to me. This is how we've always done it.
It's true.
We have to stop thinking in those terms and start thinking, how can we improve? Forget about how we've always done it. Maybe the way we've always done it is great, but we should still be looking at literally everything and saying, how do we improve it?
Yeah. And also, too, looking into the future, where are we going to be in 5, 10, 15, 25 years? Where's gaming going to be? And, if, again, we're just all of these threats. We're just hurting ourselves. We're shooting ourselves in the foot, like Benny says. It's crazy.
Well, you know, it's amazing that one incident can cause somebody to do something for years. The years, you know, it was. Yeah, I think, and you think about it, you can cut all the shoes in half, guys, and we can forget about card counters. They're done, right? But we just cost ourselves half our revenue for the whole year.
Yeah.
It's just crazy what people do. You know, I worked for a place. This is my first experience. I'm a young guy. I don't know anything, but uh, you know, I had a casino manager. Whoever he ate with, you know, for dinner for that week, the procedure of the week would come out, right? So we had all these beautiful single decks and in back in the day in Vegas, and we had these 5 games like on a Friday, Saturday night, he did like 40,000 in cash. You know, it was a cash joint. And so he went out with somebody, and there was a talk about steering a card into the dealer's hand and making him break. So the thing that they came up with during this great meal, where they probably had too much wine, was to shuffle every hand. So he comes in and he tells us that we're going to shuffle every hand. And I'll never forget the look on this one Asian gentleman's face that used to come in all the time. The first time he played one hand of 2 hands of 500. We shuffled up the cards. He's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, that's what we do now. We shuffle after every hand." So yeah, it was crazy. And I've seen that stuff all my life. And you know what's funny is like you, Paul. I'm gonna ask all 4 of you. If you tell me, I'll guarantee each one of you have had this situation. You go up and ask somebody, "Well, why do you do that?" And they have no idea.
It's
Just
true.
we've always been done it that way, right, Mike? That's
Yeah.
always done it that way.
That goes back to the people and they don't understand the math. You know, you can't be in a higher position if you don't understand the math. You have to know the math of the games. I think it's vitally important.
So there it is, folks. The six threats from the 4 wise men here. I don't know. You folks might not think we're the 4 wise men, but okay, I thought so. Anyway, it sounded good, right? But anyway, hey, all 4 of us are here on LinkedIn. We're available. If you got questions, if you don't know why something's done, maybe run it by us. I think one of us will probably be able to come up with an answer. It may be BS, but we'll listen. I love my man Michael Joseph. This was a classic line. If you guys know Michael, I know Mike knows exactly what I'm going to say. Mike would always say, "There's not a gaming question you can ask me that I don't have the answer for." He never said it was going to be the right answer. He just said he was never going. You're never going to trip him up. He's going to give you an answer. So yeah, we will. We're here for you. I mean, that's the way it is. If we wouldn't have done that session at G2E, and I wouldn't do what I do here, and these guys wouldn't come on all the time if we weren't passionate about the table games business and just seeing it prosper. So if you need something, we're here for you. We appreciate you watching, guys. Any last comments?
Good. Great session, man.
All right, folks, appreciate you watching. And listen, if you need to know what's going on, you got to be in the know. See you on the next one.